Restoring the microbiome is one of the 7 key principles that hold for cancer. And Oscar, as a nutritionist, we know how important your role is in this area. Can you define for me what the microbiome is?
Well, the microbiome is the balance of bacteria that you may have in your GI tract or in general, because the body really has different microbiomes. If we talk about what would be the content of bacteria that you have in mouth, the one that you have in large intestine and small intestine. And we do have different type of bacteria because we think that most bacteria are pathogenic, right? But we have commensal bacteria that may be transitory or maybe just commensal bacteria that stays and lives in your GI tract, right? Mm-hmm. So if we talk about microbiome as really the quantity of bacteria that you have or the organisms that you have living inside of your body, right? So
micro means small.
Yeah.
Biome means like an ecosystem, right?
An environment.
So the environment of these tiny organisms that we need.
Yeah.
Right.
And part of that microbiome also will be the genes that they harbor, the genetic expression that takes place along with having this friendly bacteria in the right state.
Yeah.
So as opposed to when we hear of microbes or pathogens, right, those are unhealthy and those are disease-causing.
Correct.
The microbiome is healthy, and this restoring the microbiome key principle we break down into 2. Healthy microbial flora, which is basically focused in the gut, 70-80%, and the rest is in other parts of the body, mucosa mainly. So as a nutritionist, Oscar, with respect to supplementation and nutrition, give us some of your highlights in working this healthy microbial flora.
To start with, I would say that 2 key things are critical to restoring the balance of bacteria. One, that we apply dietary-wise the proper foods to basically feed the beneficial bacteria, and also taking the right probiotic will be very important as a supplement, right? Because there's many things first that challenge the level of bacteria that we have in our GI tract, from overall mental stress or physical stress, in this case, to even what you consume, if it's processed, if it has preservatives, if it has colorings, artificial sweeteners in this case. If you take medication, even to reduce your acidity in your stomach, or if you take birth control pills, all this can challenge the level of bacteria in your GI tract. So that's why it's so important that we apply both, because in the real world,
nutrition and probiotics.
Correct.
So as a functional medicine doctor that you are, Dr. Curiel, I'm sure you use other supplements or herbs in combination with nutrition and probiotics. Is that right?
Yes, you're referring to getting rid of unfriendly bacteria or harmful bacteria.
And restoring the healthy.
And restoring, there's all kinds of different kind of products that will provide probiotics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So when we look at the principle of restoring microbiome, we're discussing the healthy microbial flora. Anything else you want to add to that so that we understand the significance and the importance of this topic?
Well, first off, I do wish to add that to restore your balance of bacteria, you definitely need to consume enough fiber coming naturally from your diet. This would actually be the food for the beneficial bacteria in your GI tract that we call prebiotic fiber, correct? Mm-hmm. That you can find in apples, you can find in...
This is actually what's going to be the
fuel for the growth of the beneficial
bacteria to keep alive, stay alive.
And it's so easy to get it. You can get it from, like I said, like from apples, from avocado, you can get it from onions, from garlic, you can get it from virtually any seed that you want.
I read sorry to interrupt it, but I read also article by a well-known scientist that even potato, which sometimes is very, many people are scared of eating potatoes because of the starch content. But actually potatoes, for example, have a high content of alpha lipoic acid, which is one of the most looked for antioxidants.
Correct.
But I read that had a good content of prebiotic.
Well, definitely every type of food, depending in this case where you get it from what source. Example, if we talk about seeds, seeds have really rich content of fiber. If we talk about vegetables, almost all vegetables, if we talk root vegetables specifically, they all have really good quality fiber. If you talk about fruit, the same thing. So essentially, if we want to make it simpler, if you consume a diet that's predominant rich in vegetables, fruits, nuts, and seeds, and talking about legumes and talking about whole grains, this would naturally provide what would be the fuel source for growing these beneficial bacteria and balancing this beneficial bacteria in your GI tract. The focus of consuming this diet is not only to make the beneficial bacteria grow, but it's really important to know what the bacteria do in your GI tract, right? Because we talk about prebiotics, probiotics, but we don't really explain what they do in the GI tract. Now, you talked or expressed a little bit about how they can even express your genes, in this case, kind of like epigenetics, almost, right? But if we talk in a very simpler way, we're talking about what would be your immune system, representing your immune system, helping you destroy competing bacteria, helping you produce nutrients, example like vitamin B complex vitamins, right? That we need not only for production of energy, but we also need for detox pathways in the liver, phase 1 specifically, right? So beneficial bacteria, if you look at it, it's kind of like the key cornerstone of your health, because we really need to balance it out. And most of us that tend to go to traditional treatments, where we give a medication for a condition, or you go to the hospital and they focus more on treating the condition and not really restoring the whole system. When if we think about the GI tract, it represents about 80% of your immune system, right?
And what comes to mind now when you're talking about this is that most cancer patients have a depressed immune system.
Correct.
They're more susceptible to infections, so probably 100% of cancer patients have taken or are taking antibiotics, right? And the damage that does to the microbial flora.
The overuse of antibiotics
Right.
definitely has been a big source of damage to this microbiome.
Yeah. And we know, so there's a lot of science in this field. However, it's personalized and individualized also, right? Because there are general principles that we talked about, but each patient is unique in their flora.
Yeah.
And so we need to check that as the patient is recovering.
Not everybody has the same stress level. Not everybody has the same diet. Not everybody has the same genetic expression. And we have to take into consideration that each case is an individual case, right? And then obviously if we recommend 20 billion for somebody, it may not be beneficial for another person, right? But a general point of view would be that we can definitely change our bacteria in our gut if we play a lot with food, primarily if we introduce different techniques. If, for example, if we introduce fermentation in vegetables like sauerkraut, or the traditional plate that's Korean like kimchi.
What about kombucha? Because we hear a lot about kombucha now.
It does have a certain amount of bacteria. A lot of people talk about it as not being beneficial, right? Because there's really no change. But again, if we look at the whole spectrum of bacteria, we're talking about what is it going to do inside of your GI tract? Is it going to boost your immune system? Or is it going to help you produce nutrients? Is it going to help you combat what would be, in this case, non-beneficial bacteria? So you definitely are going to get something from it. Now, if you eat anything that's fermented that would contain these beneficial bacteria, you'll get that benefit. In a small amount, remember, it's 4 pounds of pure bacteria. So if you do it every day, that's bioaccumulative in your system, and that's going to be effective if you do it every day, right?
Dr. Curiel, as clinicians, it's so satisfying to us to see patients as we restore the microbial flora, that they have more energy, less fatigue, better cognitive function, better able to concentrate, even to do their therapies, right?
Correct.
And as Oscar would say, have even better bowel movements, right?
Exactly.
So I know that's been our experience overall. And we know that this is quite individualized and personalized, right? Because everyone is unique in many aspects.
So one of the things to remember is the 4 main effects of the microbiome, why it is so important, which would be 1, boosting our immunity, okay? In order for us to have an optimal state of our immune system function, the microbiome is fundamental. Okay, so that's one thing to remember. Second, brain function. The better our microbiome, the better our brain is going to work, the better we're going to feel, the happier we're going to be. Okay, the other area would be hormone balance. And if we have a better hormone state of health, we're also going to feel much better. And our one of the best languages of our body is the hormone communication. Okay. The last thing that we have already been spoken before it's having a digestive system that is running smoothly. So we have that. We're going to have a better digestion, better assimilation of nutrients too.
Correct.
That was a very good summary of the practical reason why reestablishing the healthy microbial flora is so important. The immunity, hormones,
digestion,
and
brain function.
And brain function. Yeah, excellent. So let's shift gears a little bit and let's look at the second component of the key principle of restoring the microbiome, which is the effect of pathogens and its correlation to cancer, right? We know that there's many studies that are associating the increased risk of developing cancer and other chronic diseases with certain microbes, like H. pylori in stomach or esophagus cancer, Epstein-Barr virus, for example, in Hodgkin's lymphoma. We know that cytomegalovirus also, maybe in some leukemia. So, this goes back many, many years when they found an association of pathogens in cancer. And at the clinic, we do certain therapies for getting rid of bacteria, viruses, parasites, fungi, and other so-called like stealth organisms, right? Cell wall deficient forms. One of them, Dr. Curiel, that maybe you could explain a bit in detail is the ultraviolet blood irradiation.
UVBI. Well, this is a form of therapy that it's done by taking blood from the patient within, we would say it's a circuit that is sterile, closed, where you will have blood coming out and then coming back in. But in the process of that, you're going to have the blood going through a point where there's going to be a irradiation of ultraviolet light. Okay, basically, and the point of this is basically to kill any pathogens that are not desirable.
So to make it, not so scary for patients, because, you mentioned kill, you mentioned pathogens, you mentioned radiation. Wow. It's
irradiation. Irradiation.
Okay.
With an I.
Yeah, with an I. So that's important. Irradiation. So the process of UVBI that you describe is simply we take some blood out of the patient based on their body weight. We add that blood to a saline bag. We introduce ozone that has antimicrobial properties as well as oxygenation, the blood. And then the blood is reinfused in the patient. Before that, it goes to a device that has ultraviolet light, A, B, and C spectrum, that is antimicrobial. So this is quite a unique therapy. And we know that these therapies, even the restoring healthy microbial flora, work synergistically, right? With all the other key principles that hold for cancer.
Right.
We mentioned UVBI, we mentioned ozone. What about hyperthermia, Dr. Curiel?
Well, hyperthermia, if you remember fever, what is fever? It's a natural defensive mechanism of the body. So hyperthermia tries to simulate that. It will help to fight off disease, in this case infection, weaken the pathogens. But I think it's going to be more effective when it is combined with other form of treatment in order to have a killing effect on undesirable pathogens. So we can have, like you said, the UVBI. We can utilize nanosilver, both orally or in IV forms. And even certain supplements that can be very effective, especially when you're looking for more of a digestive effect versus a systemic, or sometimes combining both.
Well, if we talk about the digestive tract, it's going to be critical that we try to clear out anything that the body doesn't want to have in the system, knowing that most of the things that the liver cannot handle is going to send it directly to bile, and then bile goes directly down to the bowels. So it'd be critical that the patient has a smooth digestive tract, processing and eliminating correctly how it's supposed to be, right? Doing so. If we're doing all those therapies, in compliance with, in conjunction with, the correct diets, we're going to have a correct process of detox, with the patient.
Basically, the goal is to get rid of any bacteria, fungus, or parasite that are just going to be in the way of optimal health.
And this is a process because the 3 weeks that the patients are at the clinic, we're just beginning this. So it's very important that patients realize this and don't expect, pathogens that might have been there for many years and parasites that are embedded in so many tissues and organs, right? This is an ongoing process. So compliance to the recommendations that we give them, the instructions that we give the patients is very important that they keep doing it at home.
Yeah.
And so when they come back for a 3-month checkup, we could reevaluate, see how they're feeling, see how their gut health is, and make tweaks and adjustments to that.
And also to remember to not get obsessed with overdoing antimicrobial therapies or protocols, even if they are natural, especially in the oral form, because sometimes there's not really a pathogenic problem in the GI gut, but you hear it so much that sometimes you get obsessed with the idea.
Yeah.
I have situations where there is an obsession, trying to kill pathogens, and that can also throw out the balance.
Yeah, and this is why every case is individualized, right? Because everybody comes with a different situation, a different environment. So everybody has to find out what are the key components with them so we can apply the right therapy for them, right?
One of the other therapies for the pathogenic load that patients can present is pulsating electromagnetic field therapy, PEMF, because we know that all these microorganisms have a resonance, a vibration, a frequency. And if we're able to disrupt that with electromagnetic fields, it's assisting in the overall process of restoring that gut and also eliminating these pathogens, and the results obviously will be better. So we've talked about, practical applications, restoring gut flora. What do the patients feel? Can they experience symptoms when we're also killing viruses, parasites, and bacteria?
You refer to die-off effect?
Die-off effect, exactly.
Well, maybe they will feel a little bit more need to rest, kind of like flu-like type of that moment where you feel like you're going to get the flu, or you just feel maybe tired or just kind of sick, but once you can start get rid of those waste material, and for a reason to have a proper bowel elimination, you start feeling better right back up.
Depends on the load of the patient, right?
Yes.
Everybody's individual reaction is very specific to the load of toxicity that they may have, right? So from just general fatigue to just no symptom at all. And it really depends on the patient.
And we do a good job of that because, in our surveys for quality of life, it's across the board. Patients feel better during their treatment at the clinic and afterwards. So we're making sure they're well hydrated, they're drinking plenty of good, clean, purified water.
Correct.
The coffee enemas, the near-infrared saunas, the walking out by the beach, because we're blessed that both of our clinics in Tijuana and Cancun are across the street from the ocean.
Well nourished also.
Well nourished, yes. Yeah, I had to say that. I mean, you had to say that as a nutritionist, right? Thank you, Oscar. I know that the input that you have with our patients in the nutritional aspect and attending to this key principle of restoring the microbiome is so important, and I've seen transformation, right? When this is able to happen, when patients follow your directions,
Thank you, Dr.
great
Johnny.
things happen.
Thank you.
And Dr. Curiel, what could I say? We've helped a lot of patients in this area. Being a functional medicine doctor, it's so important to let them know that it's oftentimes necessary to supplement, to make sure that they're sleeping well, and all the other lifestyle recommendations that you give our patients. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.